What's up, YouTube? It's Donovan the Smartphone Guy here with another video, and tonight we're going to take a look at the Blue Life 1 X2, and this is my second video of the phone. I did an unboxing about a week and a half ago, and so this will be my full review of the phone after me using it for about a full week as my primary phone. So this is the box it comes in. This is the phone. It is a 5.2-inch display. It does have a fingerprint sensor. We'll talk about the hardware in a little bit. I just wanted to kind of hit those real quick. So this is some of the specs. Kind of cool that Blue does that. They throw all the specs on the back of the box. So 5.2-inch screen, I already mentioned that. That is 1080p. It is IPS, not AMOLED. So that's a little bit of a thumbs down. But it's not a bad display for sure. In the brightest of sunlight, it'll be a little bit dim, but for the most part, it's not too bad. So Snapdragon Qualcomm 430 processor, which for me, I think this is the first Blue phone I've had with something other than MediaTek. So this actually has a Snapdragon processor, which so far has run pretty well for me. So I did get the 64 gig version. So this one's $200. There is one with only 16 gigs of onboard storage and 2 gigs of RAM that you can get for $149. So that's 1.4 gigahertz processor, fingerprint sensor I'll talk about in a little bit. The cameras we'll talk about in a little bit, but you can see 16 megapixel rear facing camera, 8 megapixel selfie, and we got Corning Gorilla Glass, Android 6.0.1, which I'll mention that I have actually got a software update already on this phone. It was the October patches, and from my recollection, I think this is only the second phone I've gotten from Blue that actually had a software update. And typically I only hold the phones for a couple months, but so that's part of the reason why I don't get updates. But the R1 HD is one I've definitely got a couple updates from. So anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the phone and what you get with it. So in the first look, I already went over everything that comes in the box, so you can take a look at that video. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description if you're interested in that one. But this is just some of the stuff you get real quick. So headphones, you get a micro USB adapter for charging it, and then you get a Qualcomm 3.0 fast charging wall adapter there. You do get a screen protector and then this thin silicone case. So it's nice that Blue includes all that stuff in the box with the phone. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that I think are, in my opinion, the more important things you want to know about a phone. So let's talk about the performance first of all. From my usage, let's see, I don't even remember what I was on last. Oh, I was looking at Meyer. But let's look at, I don't think anybody cares about the election at this point, or maybe they do. Probably a lot of people still care about the election. But the processing power, I think, is pretty good. I haven't had a whole lot of hiccups until I've played some kind of graphic-heavy games, played some Madden Football a little bit earlier, Madden Mobile, and there are a couple like little minor hiccups. I've played some racing games as well. Again, it drops frames from time to time, but really performance isn't bad. For a phone that's $200, you're going to get pretty solid performance out of the phone. I'm not going to go through doing the benchmarks in this video, but if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll go ahead and try to do that in another video if that's something you're interested in. But anyways, performance so far has been, I think, definitely very good. I had the 5R, which you can check out that video. I'll also leave that link in the description as well. The 5R definitely had a lot more stuttering than this phone does, so that's a thumbs up for this one. So the Snapdragon processor with the 4 gigs of RAM seems to be pretty good performance so far. In terms of battery life, I definitely say that this phone is not as good as the 5R in that category. I'm getting about 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. But with that being said, the fast charging is incredibly fast. So I can't really show you the battery life at the moment because it's at 92%. I recently charged it. So it won't really show you the screen on time at this point. But I will say that the battery life has been pretty good. It doesn't quite get me through a full day of usage, but I think for the average user, 4 to 4.5 hours will probably get you through an entire day. But you can see that I keep my Wi-Fi, my Bluetooth on, I keep my location on at all times. So all those antennas are always running, and so 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time isn't too bad in my opinion. So that's we'll kind of give that a mixed 4.5, somewhere in there, stars out of 5. Because Qualcomm 3.0 fast charging is insanely fast. That is definitely a huge plus. So in terms of hardware, one thing, let's go ahead and pull this off, but let's talk about the fingerprint sensor first. So fingerprint sensor is very accurate. It's not the fastest fingerprint sensor, so I'll go ahead and show you a few times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can see it doesn't respond super fast, but it's very accurate. Okay, so that's with that thumb. Let's try it with this one real quick. All right, so you can see that it works well. It rarely ever misses, but it's not the fastest. Now, with that being said, this is also a home button, so if I go over here, I can hit that and go back home as well. So it does have the software keys here, but then it does also have this as a physical home button. So like that, it's kind of like Samsung in that regard with that. One thing that's kind of interesting about the hardware with this phone is that it is a metalish build, but with most metal phones, you don't get something like this where you can actually, if I can get my finger under there, you can actually pop this off. So that's kind of rare, I think, in terms of a metal build phone, but you can see that it's plastic underneath, but it kind of, I think it has like a little metal coating on the outside. 3,000 milliamp hour battery, kind of already talked about that. There are 2 SD card slots there, so this is they're both SIM cards, micro SIM slots. So I had to get an adapter for my Nano SIM there, and there is a micro SD card slot there, so you can add storage to it as well. I will mention that there is a speaker down here and the microphone here. So when I pop the screen or the case back on there, you can see that this one is the speaker. This one is not. There's a little microphone right there, though. So I assume that's probably why those holes are there, or just to make it look symmetrical, I guess, would be the other reason. So it is micro USB for charging, so no Type-C here. Headphone jack on the top. We have our flash in the front and on the back, 16 megapixel. Yeah, so other than that, the build, other than kind of being the weird fact that it is a removable back, kind of a weird setup there, but it is a little bit on the thick side. That would be maybe just a slight complaint. So when you compare it to phones, like I don't have any of my other phones with me at the moment, but yeah, when you compare it to some other phones, some of the newer phones, it's definitely a little bit thicker. So that could be a complaint that some people might have. But for me, the 5.2-inch screen is nice for one-handed use. I could pretty easily, I have to move it around in my hand just a little bit, but you can pretty easily reach all sides of the screen. So that's kind of nice. In terms of software, I think that's where we'll go next. The software is nice because it's not a heavily skinned version of Android 6.0 Marshmallow. You can see that the app drawer obviously looks quite different. Doesn't come with a lot of bloatware though, so you can see all the bloatware is pretty much right here in that first screen. Some of that is stock Android 6.0 Marshmallow apps, and then up through here, calendar, those are all the ones it comes with. It does come with all this Amazon suite of apps there, and that's kind of cool. I like the animations there. But anyway, so that's what it looks like. Now, personally, that's not what I use. I haven't even been using that home version at all, really, so I'll go into what I personally use. So if I can find it, let's see here. Where did it go? Oh, there it is, home. So I actually use Nova Launcher, so you can see that once we get it set up. So I'm a Nova Launcher user personally, so that it gives it a more stock feel. And then I go in here, the app drawer, you can see it looks a lot more stock there. And it actually runs a little bit faster, in my opinion, when I'm using Nova Launcher, so that's cool. But again, it's basically a stock Android feel, not a lot of bloat, so that for me is a big thumbs up there. One thing you may be missing is if you're used to gestures and things like that, you're going to lose that with this phone. There are no gestures, nothing, no frills basically added to the settings. It's just basically stock Android, so we'll go back into that and you can see that there really is nothing here that they add on to Android that I can see. But yeah, that's a good thing in my opinion. For the most part, there are some gestures that you kind of miss out on, but for the most part, I prefer the stock feel because it gives it a little bit snappier performance, in my opinion. So let's talk about the camera. So the camera is definitely not a good low light camera. In the best lighting, it's definitely a decent camera. I think it compares, the 16 megapixel camera compares to a lot of the best cameras out there. I mean, it's not obviously, Samsung quality, but it's not bad either. So you can see some of the options that you have available here by swiping up. And so we'll go in here. So we have a flash mode. We can change our pixel size, megapixel size, and just switch camera, touch shot, smile shot, geotagging, video quality. So it goes up to 1080p for video quality. That's the highest you're going to get. That pretty much covers everything there. You can see what's available. So low light, not great, but in terms of decent lighting cameras, it's gonna give you good pictures. But low light, both the front and the rear cameras, you're gonna get some grainy photos out of it for sure. So I think that covers the biggest things that I can think of. So like I mentioned, Blue gives you a lot of extras with this phone. You get the free screen protector, the case, and everything like that. Like I said, for me, it's worth it to spend the extra $50 to get the 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of onboard storage. And of course, you can also expand that storage. If 64 gigs isn't enough, you can expand it with a micro SD card. But anyways, that's hopefully, I feel like I've hit everything. If I've missed anything that you're interested in finding out about, let me know in the comment section. I'll try to do hit those any questions that you might have in a future video about this phone. I plan to hold on to this one for a while and use it for a little while. But anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do. It helps. Give this video a thumbs up. That also helps out a ton. But thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.